Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel Review Magic. And today we are going to be reviewing Jai Bhim. So, for those of you who don't know, this movie is actually a South Indian Kannada Telugu movie. And I watched this movie in Hindi language, because I'm from North India. I don't understand South Indian language. But, anyways, guys, let's come to the point. Jai Bhim is the movie that we are going to review today. This is the show where you get to understand why you should watch or not watch a particular movie. So, Jai Bhim is available on Prime. And I got this notification on Enthusian as well as on Prime, to watch this movie. And the first instinct is, let me just go on IMDb and check the ratings. And if you go on IMDb, you will see that this movie has a rating of 9.6 out of 10. Now, yes, I mean, there are a lot of people in India, close to a billion population. So, a lot of people can give high ratings, but not everyone would do that. I mean, you really have to see the story to understand why this rating is so high. So, Joe Beam stars Suriya in the lead role. He goes by the name of Chandru in the movie. He is a human rights lawyer. Then you have Lilo Mole Jose, you've got Prakash Raj, you've got Rajisha Vijayan, and a lot of other actors. The movie has been directed and written by TJ Gnanavel. So this is my first movie for watching Suriya as an actor. I don't think I even knew who this actor was until I saw his movie. As a matter of fact, I saw another movie of his this weekend by the name of Udan, which is based on a real life story. This also is based on a real life story. There is a lawyer who has represented so many different minority people in southern part of India in Tamil Nadu, and he has got all those cases resolved. So, what this movie is all about is that um, a woman by the name of Sangini, her husband is a hard worker in the fields, and he also is adept at catching snakes. So one day he is called upon to find a snake in a rich person's house, and while he finds the snake, and then the following day the jewelry is gone. So the blame, as it all happens, goes on this guy, and he has somehow gone from his village to some other area to make more money, and then the cops get involved and they nab him and his two other friends in the police station, and they torture the main guy so that he can confess that he has taken. And this is all because the cops are corrupt and they just want to put the blame on these poor tribal people. So it's a very tragic story. The ordeal that someone has to go through just to make them confess that they have stolen jewelry, and ultimately this person dies because he is tortured to death by the police people day and night, and he has no representation of lawyers. There's no concept of human rights in that part of the world. There's a lot of casteism that prevails, and ultimately the wife, she gets the attention of the human rights lawyer. That's Surya played, who plays as Chandru in the movie. And he fights for the rights. I mean, he picks up all the pieces. He goes deep into detail to ultimately get justice for the wife and her kid, and also the kid that's underway. So it's a very emotional story. Ultimately it's about fighting for justice. It's a real life story about this educated lawyer who's doing that for these tribal people who are poor, who have self-respect but don't have the money. They 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 want a good life, but they're crushed daily, on the basis of casteism. There is harassment from police. A false case is put upon these people just because they are from a lower caste. The blame automatically goes towards them, and the police is involved. They're corrupt. They are taking money from the guy who actually stole the jewelry, and then they just want to put all the blame on this guy. They want to say that there is pressure from the parties, from higher ups in the police. So it brings a lot. This case eventually, this movie unfolds. It brings a lot of defamation to the police as a whole. But Surya is very adamant, and he gets to the bottom of finding where those three people are, to give justice to the wife and the relatives. So ultimately, he's so inquisitive, he's so detailed oriented. I watched Surya for the first time, and I can tell you that in the beginning I said that I had watched this movie in Hindi. So typically, when you watch a movie in the same you know the way it is by default audio, that's how you enjoy it. I've watched some Danish films, and switched the audio to English, even though it's English and it's dubbed by the same people. It's not the same, but still, when you watch Jai Bhim in Hindi, in spite of the fact that it's a some areas you will feel that, yes, I mean, there's these, the dialogue delivery is different, because South Indians, they're not as fluent in Hindi, and Hindi speaking people in the north part of India are not going to be speaking South Indian. But still, in spite of that, I mean, when you look at the movie, his acting just gets you hooked. I am totally blown away and amazed by Surya's acting. And I'm not saying this because I'm an Indian, and his performance, his demeanor, the way he just got into the character of that real judge who had fought for these tribals is absolutely amazing. I mean, there is so much of passion in his work, attention to detail. He's able to convince the judge, because he looks at so many different cases about someone who has got, taken to custody. And by the way, I want to remind you, the cops actually create a false narrative that those three people that they had taken have escaped. Because what happens is that the first guy, the main person who gets caught, gets killed. So they want to hatch a conspiracy that all these three guys have left, and they're actually, two of them are found in a remote jail in Tamil Nadu, and this third guy, the main lead, he actually is found dead, and it's a very sad story. So brilliant performance by Surya. And overall, if you see the direction of it, I mean, it's very hard to portray such kind of a role where it's a real life story, and how do you bring that into life? Through your cinematic angle, through your scripts. But PJ does a phenomenal job. I mean, this is a story that we all as Indians, or maybe around the world, have to see as to what really happens, and make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone else. People need justice. Just because you're rich, you either get away or your trial gets away, but everyone should be equal. And I think that's the message that TJ is sending out in this movie. It's a very emotional movie. I won't be surprised if you guys cry, or you're just there's just tears in your eyes. There were tears in my eyes, and there is a very powerful scene in the movie, and this is where the cops are trying to pressure the wife, who's pregnant, 9 months pregnant, but she's dedicatedly going from one place to the other just to find her husband. You can only imagine what's going through her body when she's 9 months pregnant, and she has also another daughter. But in one powerful scene, this main cop, who the main head of the police department, he's talking to the girl and saying, they can give you money, so why don't you just withdraw the case? And then the girl says that, when tomorrow my kid comes into the world, and they ask us, where did we get all this money from, and she'll have to say that they bought this money, because they wanted to withdraw the murder case of their father. So this is not going to happen. They have self-respect, they don't have money, but they can't do this. I think that's a very powerful scene. It brings the lead cop, he is embarrassed and shameful in his own eyes. What did he really ask? And he was not expecting that answer. I think that's a really, really, really touchy scene that you guys should watch. And the dialogues are good, even though it's Hindi, it's dubbed. It just comes together as one piece. Even yeah, even Even Chandru, there are moments where he's tough, but there are moments where he's emotional, he cries, because this is not something that should happen to anyone. And I'm so happy that this movie came out and I got to see it. But I also want to tell you that there are good pieces in among the cops as well. So the Inspector General, played by Prakash Raj. Prakash Raj is a great actor, and I think he complemented Suriya as a good supporting actor. He reopens the investigation. He looks at the narrative, the bite of all the cops, and he gets to know that yes, corruption is there. His people in the police department, they killed this innocent guy, and he really supports and gives a very honest answer to it. He rather die than try to pressure someone to withdraw the case. So I think the director also has shown that aspect of the police department. That not everyone is like that, but there are some bad apples in the department. So, absolutely brilliant movie, guys. I mean, if I have to give this movie a rating, it has to be 10 out of 10. The noise aside, few things I talked about, dubbing and all. This is a fantabulous movie, and I think that the next review also I'm going to do is pretty much similar on the same lines. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I recommend you watching Jai Bhim. Hope this review was helpful. It's available on Prime. If you have any comments, you can write on below. And if you want to subscribe the channel, please do so. So until then, I'll see you guys and have a good night. Bye bye.